If your internal voice sounds more like an enemy than an ally, this is for you. If you've ever wondered why you replay conversations and tear yourself apart afterwards, freeze before taking a risk because you're convinced you'll fail, secretly believe you're too much, too needy, or too flawed to be loved, you're not broken. You're being bullied by your own inner critic. We all need a capacity for honest self-reflection. The part of us that can say, I could have handled that better. I want to grow here. Healthy self-reflection is grounded, compassionate, curious. The inner critic is different. It's not interested in growth. It's interested in control. The inner critic is the internalized voice of shame, fear, and unworthiness that lives in your nervous system. It echoes every message that ever told you you're not enough, you're too much, you're hard to love. This voice doesn't appear out of nowhere. It's built, slowly or suddenly, around your most painful emotional experiences. The inner critic attacks your character, not your behaviour, speaks in absolutes, always, never, everyone, no one, uses shame as a weapon. What's wrong with you rather than what happened to you, and keeps you small so you never risk being hurt again. This isn't motivation, it's self-abandonment. You were not born speaking to yourself like this. The inner critic is usually born in response to what I call a sensitizing event, a moment when your worldview shifted, not just because of what happened, but because of what you had to make it mean. It might have been a parent withdrawing affection when you cried, being shamed for a mistake in front of others, a breakup, betrayal or humiliation, years of subtle criticism, sarcasm or being compared, a father wound, a mother wound or chronic emotional neglect. You may not clearly remember the event, but your body remembers the meaning you gave it. I'm too much, I'm not good enough, I ruin things. Love disappears when I'm myself. That meaning becomes a filter. Every experience, every relationship, every opportunity passes through that filter before it reaches your conscious mind. The inner critic is the voice of that filter. What most people call low self-esteem, imposter syndrome, being hard on myself, is often a trauma response. Your nervous system learned very early on that being small equaled safer, being perfect equals safer, being invisible equals safer. The inner critic is your bodyguard. It believes if it shames you hard enough, you won't risk vulnerability, you won't speak your truth, you won't leave or change anything, you won't do anything that could trigger the old wound again. It's harsh because it's terrified. This is why you can't simply positive think your way out of it. The critic isn't living in your logic, it's living in your nervous system. The inner critic doesn't just hurt your feelings, it shapes your entire life. It labels you idiot, ugly, too emotional, a failure. These labels become internal tattoos even when no one else is saying them. The echo keeps you in shame. It limits you. You don't apply for the job. You don't leave the relationship. You don't set the boundary. You don't share your work, creativity or gifts, not because you can't, but because the critic insists you'll fail, be rejected or abandoned. It drives self-sabotage. You procrastinate, pick unavailable partners, overshare, shut down or mess things up right before something good happens. Then the critic says, see, I told you, this is who you are. In truth, it was trying to protect you from the terror of being seen, chosen, or successful. It conceals your power. Every time you're about to take up space, it hisses. They'll leave. You'll embarrass yourself. You're not that special. This is not reality. It's your past speaking. You may be living under the critic. If you find it hard to accept compliments, you feel a constant background anxiety that something will go wrong. You believe you're too much or not enough for real love. You apologise excessively, even for existing. You overfunction in relationships and undervalue yourself. You regularly think, if people truly knew me, they'd leave. These aren't random thought patterns, they are survival codes created by younger versions of you. Just like rejection, the inner critic doesn't only live in your thoughts, it lives in your body. Notice what happens when the critic gets loud. Tight chest, knot in the stomach, shallow breath, hot face, prickly skin, urge to hide, perform, or fix everything. This is your threat system activating. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between my parent is disappointed and I'm not safe and my boss gave me feedback, I'm still safe. It just knows this feels like before. Protect, withdraw, attack first. In emotional recalibration therapy, we work directly with these imprints through breath, awareness, hypnosis, and somatic repair, so the body learns it no longer needs to brace. One of the most important parts of healing is learning to distinguish between intuition and inner critic. Intuition is calm, clear, and grounded, even when it asks for big change. The inner critic is frantic, shaming, and catastrophic. Intuition sounds like, this doesn't feel aligned, I deserve better. The critic sounds like, you're a mess, no one will ever want you, be grateful for crumbs. Healing asks us to turn down the critic so we can hear the quiet, truthful voice beneath it. Inner critic work isn't about forcing yourself to be confident or shouting affirmations over your pain. It's about recalibrating the filter that formed in your sensitizing event and teaching your nervous system a new way to relate to yourself. Through emotional recalibration therapy and inner child healing, we track where the critic took root, meet the younger self who created it, release the meanings that were never true, rebuild emotional safety from the inside out, practice new ways of speaking to yourself that actually land in the body. We're not trying to eliminate the critic by force, we are retraining it. Over time, the same protective energy can shift from you're worthless and don't try to I've got you. Let's move carefully, but we can move. This is what nervous system-based healing does. Gently, honestly, you might like to explore. When do I first remember not feeling good enough? What did I make that moment mean about me? Whose voice does my inner critic sound like? A parent, a teacher, ex-partner, religious figure, culture? Where do I feel the critic in my body? If my inner critic could answer back, what would they say? You don't have to do this alone, but you do deserve to understand why your own mind has felt like a battleground and how to make it a home again. The inner critic is the internalized voice of shame and fear that formed in response to early emotional pain. It speaks in harsh absolutes, attacks your worth, and tries to protect you from future hurt by keeping you small. When love, attention, or safety in childhood felt conditional, the child often blames themselves. If I were better, they'd stay. If I were less, they'd be calm. These beliefs harden into the inner critic, which continues to shame you long after the original situation has passed. To your inner critic, success, love, or visibility can feel dangerous if you associate being seen with being shamed or abandoned. Your nervous system may try to protect you by tanking opportunities or relationships before you can be hurt. This is survival, not stupidity. Begin by noticing when the critic speaks and how it feels in your body. Name it. This is the inner critic, not the truth. Offer yourself gentle counter-statements rooted in reality, not fantasy. Trauma-informed approaches like emotional recalibration therapy help you work with these patterns at the nervous system level, not just in your thought. The good news is emotional recalibration therapy really can change this, not overnight, but deeply. Emotional recalibration therapy combines inner child work, hypnotherapy, and somatic awareness to soften the critic's grip, restore nervous system safety, rebuild self-worth from the inside out, help you relate to yourself with compassion rather than attack. You don't become someone else. You become who you were before the wound took the wheel.